Hey everyone, welcome to 30, Flirty, and Nerdy. Today I have Leticia here. She is a mindset coach, someone who I look up to for mindset shifts and changes, and she does yoga and just absolutely a spiritual person that I love to kind of hang out with, be around when I can, and all that good stuff. So I'm really happy and excited that you decided to come on the podcast after I asked. So thank you so much. And so I'm really excited for you to be here because you're a mindset coach, and I really want to talk about the mindset of turning a certain age, of turning 30, kind of breaking down some limiting beliefs. We talked a little bit beforehand how you wanted to say like what turning 30 was like for you and how it was different for most people. Yeah, let's just kind of get into it. If you can, I kind of like did a little intro of you, but can you kind of give the friends a little bit of a background of who you are and what you do?
Yeah. Hey, friends. Yeah. So, Leticia Escamilla. I'm Leticia Escamilla. My business is MindFuel Motion, and I really focus on mental fitness or being that mindfulness coach, just like you'd mentioned. And it's all about strengthening our mind to work for us and not against us. And it's going to be the perfect segue into our topic of when we think about our 30s or we think about aging just overall. And so that's what I love talking about, ways to unprogram things that no longer serve us and now fill that space with the thoughts and the mindsets that we want to have serve us and building on patterns and habits that also serve us as well because our mind is very powerful. It's where everything comes from that we do. Our actions are kind of secondary to what our mind already knows and wants to do, and so we can be in control of that if we choose to, or not be in control of that if we choose to. So I choose for us to be in control of it because it's the one thing that we honestly do have control over versus all the things that we think we have control over in the outside world. So I'm super excited to talk about all the things we have in store and help people see things maybe a little bit differently that's in a positive way that works for them.
Yes, and that's one of the things I love about you is how positive you are and how full of light you are. Because just being in your presence, doing like the journaling that I did with you with yoga that one time, it just felt so beautiful and blissful and kind of opened up my mindset in that way, just to be kind of more myself too at that time. I was like, well, I want to work on being more of who I am. And so definitely having that positive energy and spin on things is really going to be beneficial because, like I was mentioning, there have been limiting beliefs about turning 30, right? Like people would see 30 as kind of like a midlife crisis age, and people would see 30 as something that they kind of feel like their life is ending and they haven't been successful, they haven't done anything worthwhile. They haven't felt like their life had any meaning. They're just kind of wandering, along the road, so to say, and just kind of not really sure what to do, not really sure where to go. They think that they're too old to start anything new, that's that type of stuff. And before we start recording, you said that you loved your 30s. You said that you were very excited to turn 30. Can you kind of explain why you were excited about that for someone that might be intimidated and kind of reserved about being 30?
Yeah, so I turned 37 years ago. So I'm 37. Obviously, we know that math, but so I'm a little, I'm almost in the tail end of my 30s. My birthday's in March, so I don't know when this will air, but I'm actually getting closer to 38, right? So 2 more years left, 2.5, 2 and 3 months left of my 30s. But when I turn 30, and honestly, any age that I turn, I get really excited. I love celebrating my birthday and like do a whole maybe 2 weeks worth of just festivities celebrating fairly believe in the age that I'm turning. As I mentioned to you also in our pre-conversation before we hit record, is that anytime we put any kind of thought of, oh my gosh, I'm getting old or I'm turning this age, if we put so much belief and intention into that, then you're going to start to believe it and it's going to start to be true. And that's just in any decision that we make in life, right? If we decide that it's too late for us to go after our dreams and desires and at whatever age we are, then you are absolutely right. You are too old and it's too late for you to go after your dreams and desires. But if you continuously remind yourself, I at any age am deserving of the life that I want to live, if it's not the one you're living right now, and you continue every day to remind yourself of that, and then also take the action that you need to take each day. And that could be just one small action. It doesn't have to be big, huge leaps and bounds. then you start to change your life and realize that you are in control of your life and you can have the life of your dreams. And you just have to start believing it and then add some action to it to follow up with that thought. And so as far as, being in our 30s, I love being in my 30s. Like I said, I'm 27 and I'm more youthful, I'm more healthy mentally, physically, spiritually than I was at 27. My 20s were awesome. I think it was definitely so much growth, so much just, what it was, who I was 10 years ago in my 20s and even in my earlier 20s and who I am now are completely different, but I wouldn't give it up for anything. Like I loved that version of her, and that version of her had to explore and live and experience life in order for the 30-year-old, the 37-year-old version of me to be able to experience life in this new way. And so I give it up to all of the ages. And honestly, it's an honor to be this age. 37 is young. I'm a baby, y'all. I don't know. So I'm talking to those that are in their 30s, maybe those in their 20s or even in their 50s, maybe watching this. But I'm a baby. Like I feel so youthful. Like I am so grateful to be 37. There's some that didn't get a chance to be 37. And, when we hear of those who don't get to make it to that age, we're like, they're so young. But then you look at yourself and you're like, I'm so old. And it's like, hello, that makes no sense. So I think being this age is amazing and I wouldn't give it up for anything. I do want to also add to, as far as like, feeling you're too old to start something, it's never too late to start anything. We've been, and I use this word intentionally, we've been programmed to think that we have to follow this regime plan that, get out of high school, we have to go right into college, and then right into college, it's, getting the job, and then we have to find the mate and get married and have the kids. And it's like, it doesn't have to be like that at all. It's your life and it can flow and go however you like and what's going to be best for you. I just got married at 37. Thanks.
And sorry, I was on mute so people didn't see me clapping, but
Oh,
congratulations.
no, but and so, and we don't have kids yet, and we do plan having kids. And as I mentioned, I'm getting closer to 40. And so I get excited about continuing to share my youthfulness as I continue to age, but also know that like, there's no right time to have kids. It's the right time for me. I think about, if I was going to have kids even last year or, 5 years ago or in my 20s, I was not ready. I was not ready. I needed that time to hang out and learn a little bit more about myself before I make a decision to help others learn who they are. I need a little bit more preface who I am first. And so I'm excited about being in my 30s. I'm excited to be in my 90s when that time comes. So girl, let's do that 90s flirty and nerdy, podcast because
Yes.
it's going to be an honor to live that long, to have that much wisdom, to have, and I already feel like that. I feel very wise at 37. So I think it's very exciting. And I see it from that perspective.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's so refreshing hearing you say how you're excited to be 37, how you're excited to start that next chapter of your life with a family, kids, and all of that, especially getting to know yourself. In the previous episode with Kelly, we were talking about being authentically you and being
Mm,
more of who you are and being able to express that more. And with what you were talking about, it sounds like you did that and you're still doing that. And you got to know yourself before you can help other people kind of like raise other humans in this lifetime. And I
yeah.
think that's amazing. And just that mindset of you're never too old to start something new. I was actually speaking with a friend of mine earlier today, and she was kind of worried because she felt like she wanted to jump into a profession that may have a more younger demographic. So, like, she wants to do coding, but she feels like she's too old to do coding because it's more of a younger demographic and all like younger people get like the job offers and things like that. So, what would you say to someone that has that mindset block, of wanting to jump into a new career but feels like they're too old to do it?
I would say, again, it's about changing that mindset and believing in yourself and not letting, again, we've been programmed to think that we have to be a certain age when we do things or that we can't hang around younger folks than us. Like I love hanging out with someone in their early 30s or in their mid 20s or even in their early 20s. I love hanging out with my friends' kids teenagers, we can they all teach us something. So being that if it's something strong enough, your friend or anyone listening out there wants to get into something that we may see a younger demographic going into, I think go into it with a positive mindset of like, awesome, like I'm going to get to learn from this group that maybe is a little bit younger, but to be honest, these younger folks coming up after us have so much wisdom. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a bit of the technology. I don't know if these are just the old souls that left us and are coming back in these younger versions. I don't know what it is. I can't tell you, but they're pretty wise. And I think just going in and how can you see this as an experience to learn? And who's to say that your friend or anyone going into it, is going to continue doing it? Maybe this opportunity of going into that beginner stage of something is just catalyst or catapult to something else that she or anyone out there wasn't aware of that is really your journey is meant to go. And you just have to start there first. So that's definitely one way to view it. And again, it's all about that mindset and not being afraid and not being scared of what others think of you. Who cares? Who cares if you're 50 and you're hanging out with the 20-year-olds? I have to give it up to like my mom. Like my mom works in the industry and she works on the strip and she talks about all the time how she's like works with people my age or even younger and how much they love her and how much they learn from her. But I think it keeps her useful too to be around, and we're only 20 years apart. My mom's 57. I can tell you the exact age because we're exactly those 20 years apart. So she's super useful. She's super young. But I think again that just we can all learn from each other and we all have this wisdom. And there's some, 27-year-olds, let's say, that have experienced life way more than we have and they can, share more with us. And so again, it's I think letting go of the age so much and just enjoying the experience of life and what life has to offer us and what it already has offered us.
That is such a great perspective. I agree that having younger friends, it's fun because they have such a different wisdom and outlook on life.
Or
And you're like, huh, I didn't think about it like that before. Like I have a few friends that are 5 years younger than me. And it's really fun talking to them and kind of figuring out what they think about a situation. Or just kind of like you said, like the wisdom that they have too, which is really cool.
yeah.
So another question that I have too that I've been thinking about as well is how does one change their mindset from something so negative about age to like a positive thing? Because you keep saying change your mindset. Like you gotta change your mindset. How does one specifically change that? Like, do you go through journaling prompts? Do you go through like therapy? How does one person go from something, negative thoughts to more positive thoughts?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think with any type of, I think about in my workshops or when I'm talking about mental fitness, for example, I always compare it to physical fitness because everyone is familiar with physical fitness, right? We all know the benefits of it. We know, what it looks like and why we do it. And so the reason why I'm going in that direction is because just like physical fitness, it's important to find what works for you. There's not just one way. There's for me, for example, when I go to like a gym, like at a hotel or something, like I don't jump on treadmills. I don't like treadmills. People are like, they're looking for a treadmill. Like I want weights and I want to be able to use my body to work out. Like that's my jam. I know that I'm going to get in and do my best when I do that type of workout, for example, right? So I say that to say that like it's finding what's going to work best for you. So it could be affirmations, right? It could be reciting that I am useful, I am young, I can still do it at this age, or you know what I mean? Like it could be just finding that and working that every day. It could just be meditating on, what it is you want to change about your mindset. Journaling, of course, is my jam. The power of journaling and that bond and connection and to bring in with yourself is powerful. And so finding journal prompts that help you get past that limiting belief of age and what you've put on it. And also like the biggest question is who told you that our 30s, you know what I mean, is old, or who told you, like where did that thought, because all of our thoughts got planted in, and just like a plant, right? This is Lucy, everyone, just like a plant, it grows. So who told us these things or who told you these things? And kind of go back to the root of that, and see like, and it could be our parents, right? We are very influenced by our parents, and that's not good or bad, but, or it could be other peers around us that we're hearing like, yeah, 30's old, or that means you're old. And if you start to believe it, right, it starts to be true, just like I mentioned earlier. So you got to sometimes find where that belief started and kind of rip it out of the root so that again, you're clearing space to clear in a new seed to plant and water a new belief so that it works for you. So that could be journaling on like, who told me this? Where did I get this belief from? And kind of doing that until you uncover, like, oh, yeah, you know, I used to hang around mom and grandma and all the nannies, or nanas, and they used to always say how, being this age is old and you just kind of were around hearing it and it got planted in. And so now, once you find the root, what is it that you want to replace it with? Well, I'm youthful, I'm young, I can do anything I want at any age, whatever it is for you, and working through it through journaling. So, and you mentioned therapy. Therapy is amazing. If a therapist or talk therapy, I love to talk. Can you tell?
I
um,
love talk therapy. I'm doing that right now too, and it's amazing.
Amazing, right? Like I love talking because it helps me to like say what it is I'm saying, but then as I'm saying, I'm like, oh, like I'm solving it for myself. Like I talk to myself, like I'm home alone right now, my husband's gone. And I will have conversations with myself and be like, okay, yeah, like, and I'll start to uncover the answers just by talking to myself and having a conversation. It's not happening all the time, guys, but it's just a way for me to get through it and for me to process what is going on in my mind and getting it out. And that's the most important thing.
That's awesome. Yeah. So journaling, talking it out, kind of getting to the root of the problem, which
Yeah.
is true. And I think for most people, it can be family, but I think a lot of the times it's also society.
Oh,
Society
yeah.
has a huge role in it because I know that's where I get that limiting belief from a little bit. Like, oh, like all these people, like I'm just thinking about, all of these actors and actresses who are like younger than 30, like have these amazing lives. And it's like, how are they so successful already? And I'm like barely starting, you know what I mean? So it's just kind of like, I think society plays into a lot of that and like what you see on the internet and what's being talked about. And so I guess another question that I have too, which is so random and just kind of popped in my head, but like, would you say that kind of being mindful about who you follow on social media and like how much time you spend on social media could also play into your thought process and your mindset of age and things like that? Like, do you think it has a really big role play, or do you think it's just kind of how you use it?
I don't know. I mean, the first thought that honestly comes to mind is social media has a huge influence on us. I mean, just overall. And who you follow and what you follow is very important, I think, just overall. And especially like what we're watching, right? The types of movies. Are we watching the news every morning before we start our day instead of taking moments to meditate or journal or do something for ourselves? All of those things play a huge role and affect our mindset. And that's why it's so important to limit yourself on social media. If you're seeing a lot of toxic things or negative things on social media, maybe unfollowing those things or unfollowing, half of those things and just being aware of it, right? Because it's super easy. Like I catch myself, like, if I have nothing to do, like going on social media and I'm like, okay, wait, do I have an intention for so, am I looking for something? Am I looking to connect? Or am I just here to scroll? And so, it plays a huge role and we have to be the ones to kind of control ourselves and who we follow and what we follow and what we're doing on there. And also how often we're getting on, like find a purpose for it, find a reason, or give ourselves a time limit of like only 5 minutes a day. And I know that can be hard, even for me, and I have to admit that. But yeah, I think it plays a huge role. And just life overall, as far as age goes, I mean, possibly, right? Like if it and it goes to who you're following. Like, one of the things that I learned and I thought was very powerful that I learned is that, we are the 5 people we hang around. So if you think about the 5 closest people that you are hanging around, more than likely you are a mirror of them. So if it's someone who's toxic and negative all the time, and, do you realize that you also are toxic and negative a lot of the times, or the opposite is this person, you know, feeding your mind and feeding your dreams and desires and you doing it back to them, right? Like that's super important. The people we hang around with, finding others that are also in our 30s that love being in their 30s or just don't care how old they are. If they're 30, they're 40, they're 100, whatever, which I'm excited to be 100. But I think that's super, super important. If we're hanging around people who are already feeling old in their 30s or at any age, then you're going to start to feel that way too. So we may have to switch up the people we're hanging around with. And that's physically, that's on our phones, that's all the ways. And I think that's just goes along with just our life in general. So yeah, I hope that helps.
It really did. It's definitely something to really think about because I have heard before where if you want to change your mindset, you have to be surrounded by the people that kind of think like you want to think, or it's kind of like if you're in a business, you want to be surrounded by the people that are like really good at the business, so you could be really good at the business as
Yeah.
well. Kind of it's our type of mindset, right? But for age and for life and just for like kind of pleasure, like fun. So yeah, it made so much sense to me. Thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I want to do two more questions for you. Do you have any types of resources for people that need to change their mindset that they could, look up books, journaling like your book, or like anything like that to kind of help them transition into this next phase of life?
Sure. I'm going to grab some for you now. Okay.
And your journal.
And why not? So, tools. So, I'm a meditation teacher and I believe in the power of meditation. So, meditation is a huge tool. Just being a meditation teacher and doing my own practice for as long as I have, I realized that we don't necessarily need anything for anything. We have it all within us. However, I know starting off, especially even in my own experience, in my own journey, I did need things. I needed the guide, I needed the teacher, I needed the book in order to just get a concept to understand and then also put into action. And so when I say that meditation first, right? Like honestly, we can just close our eyes and start to breathe and listen to our breath and get into a state. But if that's hard for you or which can be, right? One, it's okay. Like if you're fidgeting or whatever, like if you fidget for 5 minutes and you only gave yourself 5 minutes and that's all you did, then great. Like you tried, you attempted. Like you to me, that's a huge win. But if you're looking for a tool to meditate, I'm not yet on a tool. However, I'm changing that soon. But I love Insight Timer. Insight Timer is an amazing meditation tool that I use personally, that I go to, that has tons of types of meditations, sounds, chants, whatever it is you're looking for. Or if you're just not sure, you can just want to explore and be very open minded. You can try all the different things. And I love Insight Timer too, because so many different like times of meditation. If you're looking for a 5 minute, even a 3 minute, there's 1 minute ones to, 60 minute, 90 minutes, getting really long. They're all there. So I am, I don't work with them yet or do anything, but I just honestly use them and love them. And it's the only one I use. I did start off using Headspace when I first started. And I think they're awesome. They're super cute in the way that his voice is and the animations. So, and you can look at different ones and just explore and find what works for you. YouTube is my jam for everything. It's my workout place for physical and mental. I do yoga on YouTube, so even meditations on YouTube. So just, doing the YouTube search to find different types of meditation for beginners or, guided ones, non-guided ones. And guided just means someone who's actually voice with maybe music or some kind of ambience of sound is guiding and telling you to breathe a certain way or to visualize a certain thing. And non-guided ones are usually music or some type of like sound bath or things like that. And I just wanted to share because maybe some don't know what a guided or non-guided meditation is. So that would be my first tool. Second tool, I do have to plug, journaling is such a huge, thing I believe in. It really is the way to bond and connect with yourself. It's huge for the mental mind to build your mental fitness. I do have a journal, the Me Time journal, but why journaling is so important and what I have in my journal is just being able to let go, right? Have a place to just release your thoughts, release your ideas, release anything on the mind, and have a place to put it because we are every day thinking of things all the time. And it's super important to have a place to store it and kind of just let it go so that it has a different place to live. It also gives you a different perspective on it. So when you put it down on paper and you maybe need to read back to understand or whatever it is, even if it's a good thing, like a celebration of you bragging about all of your amazing accomplishments, you can look at it from this different perspective and go, oh my gosh, like I did that. And that is the biggest way to change your mindset because if you can see the things that you are accomplishing, especially the small things, then you're going to want to do it again the next day and the next day and the next day. And you're going to realize how powerful you are, how strong you are, that you really can get things done, that you really can manifest the life that you want, right? At any age. So journaling is huge. And I grabbed two books that are my favorites, and I have many more. I'm building like a library of my own of like mindfulness good books. And I've already read these books, but the first one is The Alchemist. And you can see there's probably like a page
Yeah,
mark.
I know
Have you
that
read,
book.
have you read it?
I did in high school, like, a long time ago. I need to reread it again.
The Alchemist is an amazing mental fitness tool book. I try to read this once a year. So I actually got to get back into reading. I'm actually finishing a different book right now. But I read this once a year because it's a story-based type of book with characters, but I know it's changed so many people's lives, and it just helps you think of life so differently. And I think a great one for age, actually, speaking of it, because of the shepherd and the things that, he's dreaming of. And he just, when we are talking about, especially for your friend, when she was like, I want to go into coding and, I'm not sure, tell her to read this book, because this will be a great way to see that when we go after what we want, what can happen. And there's going to be challenges, and there is a challenge that he faces, but he overcomes, and he couldn't be more happy and, more wealthy and abundant, not just monetarily, but in all the different ways wealth and abundance shows up in our life. So our health, all of those things, right? I would say the second book that, was meant to be in my library behind me is Jay Shetty. I'm in love with Jay Shetty. Do you know who Jay Shetty is?
No, I do not.
Jay Shetty, first of all, this man's eyes.
Oh, wow, yeah. Oh, wait. I see him on YouTube or, like,
Oh,
the snippets on, like
him. So
yeah.
think like a monk is an amazing, I mean, train your mind for peace and purpose every day. I mean, so he really quickly, just to share Jay Shetty was a monk, like went in and became a monk, shaved his head, like lived life as a monk, which is a pretty disciplined lifestyle, right? They definitely are meditating way more than 5 minutes a day. And he shares that. And then he decided that that's not the life he wanted, but there's so many things that you can imagine that he took away. And he basically shares, his story of being a monk, but how he turned that into coming out of that practice or that lifestyle, because it is a lifestyle. And he just shares so many just amazing mindfulness things that have helped me and just enhance my own practices and the way I practice as an individual, but also what I share as a guide and teacher in my workshops and the things that I do. So these would be the books that I would recommend, especially this one. Get this one first. This is just, I don't know, something this one I'm feeling called to just share, like start to here and work your way to Jay Shetty. But those are my tools for you.
Thank
um
you. I will definitely add them into the show notes for people. So my last question for you is if you could give yourself advice about being 30 to your younger self or people around the age of 25 to 30, what would that advice be?
So for me, and I didn't get to mention it, so it's a perfect time to mention it, is one of the things that changed when I, got into my 30s was I became so much more confident in myself. And so I would tell 20-year-old or younger version of myself who was very shy and still can be at times. You might not be able to tell now, but is that I'd be like, girl, like you're going to just be so confident. You're going to radiate. You're going to, all your dreams and desires are going to come true. You're going to put it into action like you never did before. And I'm going to be so proud of you. And you're going to be so proud of you. And yeah, that's what I would tell her. I get a little emotional thinking about it. I love that exercise. But basically, the main thing is like the confidence. You're going to be so confident. So you may be shy now, girl, but you are going to radiate confidence. You're going to be speaking on podcasts. You're going to be speaking in front of groups of people.
Yeah.
You're going to microphone in your hand and speaking to others and helping others through your own experiences. So that's what I would tell her.
That is amazing. Thank you so, so much for sharing that and for sharing about mindfulness today. And
Yeah.
people that listen have like resonated with this conversation that we had and really kind of see a change that they could have for themselves. So thank you so, so much for being on today. I really appreciate you.
Absolutely. I appreciate you. Thank you for reaching out and having me. I can't wait till the show comes out and everyone can see it.
Yay! Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hey friends, thank you for listening to today's episode. Please take a moment to follow and review this podcast so it could reach others. Also, if you leave a review, I'll be sharing your review in the next episode. Lastly, if you want to be part of this growing podcast, chat about your life, your profession, passions, or if you have advice that you wish you had at 30, please sign up at the link provided in the show notes. I would love to have you as a guest on the show. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day.